Welcome to Malifaux University. 606. Gaining Ground Scheme, Deathbeds. This scheme is all about markers, which makes it a good one to pick if either crew tends to drop a lot of them, like pyre markers for a wildfire or revenant crew, or ice pillar markers for a December crew. If your opponent's crew has many ways of removing markers, this one may be a challenge for you to score. Check this out. Before the game, you pick a single type of marker. It cannot be a scheme marker, but all other markers are fair game, even strategy markers, since you don't need to actually target them with this scheme. If you don't want to name a special marker like underbrush or dust cloud markers, you can pick common corpse or scrap markers, just not scheme markers. You'll want to avoid naming markers that are removed automatically in the end phase of each turn, like Riptide markers from the Drowned, for instance. If you're using the Crew Builder app, it will ask you to name the type of marker you've selected. If you're not, be sure to secretly write it down so you can show your opponent when the time comes. The reveal condition for Deathbed scores immediately after it happens. It can be hard to remember to do this since most victory points are scored in the end phase, so be patient with yourself and your opponent if you forget this timing. You need to have at least 2 markers on the table, 1 or more friendly scheme markers, and 1 or more of the markers you secretly chose before the game. You must then kill an enemy model within 2 inches of both your scheme marker and the secretly chosen marker. If you do, you remove the scheme marker, reveal the scheme, and score the victory point. It doesn't matter what the soulstone cost of the enemy model is or anything else, as long as it isn't insignificant. Also keep in mind that the markers themselves don't need to be within 2 inches of each other. They could be 3 inches or more away from one another when the enemy model is killed between them, as long as it is within 2 inches of each marker individually. The end condition doesn't involve enemy models, but more markers, at least 4 of them. It's a bit of a checklist, really. First, all the markers used for the end condition must be on the enemy half of the table. Next, there must be 2 of the secretly chosen marker. Then you have to have at least 1 of your scheme markers within 2 inches of each of those other markers, making 2 sets of 2 markers. It doesn't matter how near or far each of these pairs of markers is from one another. As long as they're all still on the table at the end of the game, you can remove your 2 scheme markers and score the victory point. I'll take a brief moment now to thank all those who were patrons at the time this video was made, especially Sergey, Keith, Alan, Jeremy, Tom, and Travis, and many more at the free student tier. Your support is essential to bringing these videos to life. Let's see this in action. A Colette Dubois performer crew is going against a Titania Fae crew and has chosen deathbeds for one of their schemes. The performer player chooses underbrush markers as the marker for the scheme and feels confident in this decision when the Neverborn crew spreads 7 of these things across the playing area after deployment. By turn 3, both crews have moved across the table thus, and the Fae have even added a few more underbrush markers. Titania's totem, Gorar, has suffered 3 damage, bringing its health down to 1. This showgirl uses Lure on the snake to move it into base contact with Cassandra Felton. With her Don't Mind Me ability, Cassandra interacts and drops a scheme marker before using her balanced sword to chop the snake to pieces. The performers killed an enemy model that was within 2 inches of a scheme marker and within 2 inches of an underbrush marker, so they reveal the scheme, remove the scheme marker, and score the first victory point. In the final turn, it looks like the performers will score the end condition as well with scheme markers by these 3 underbrush markers on the Fae side of the table. The Erymanthian boar uses its forage bonus action to remove 1 of the scheme markers and then kills the showgirl with its tusks. Later, Titania is the last Neverborn model to activate and uses her bonus action, the Queen's Command, to move this underbrush marker away from the Arcanist scheme marker and into contact with Dorian Crow, causing him 1 damage. Colette Dubois is the final Arcanist model to activate, and she uses Presto Changeo on Dorian Crow, who naturally relents to her attack. She drops a scheme marker into contact with Dorian, moves him into contact with her, and then places herself into contact with that scheme marker. At the end of the game, there are still 2 scheme markers, each within 2 inches of a different underbrush marker on the enemy side of the table. The Arcanists remove the 2 scheme markers and score the second victory point. That's the Gaining Ground scheme, Deathbeds. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargame Vault. If you haven't already, join us on Patreon to receive early, ad-free access to all new content, and be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.